Every time that I schedule a podcast, I try to choose a guest that I have a genuine interest in. And if I don't know that guest well, then I try to let my curiosity for them help uncover that recipe that has helped them get ahead in life. That part there is what I love to share with you. Unique stories from everyday people and why we don't need to be super famous to be super influential to the people around us. I've been studying recently the story of King David and Goliath and why David was chosen to be king, not because of his status, but because of his heart, because of his determination. And if I can share a person's heart and determination with you, it helps us all find our own pathway towards kingship. Now, right now, I'm on a quest to find a marketing man that will help me get to know my business and will fully understand my goals. So I flew to Sarasota, Florida to meet with one of the top 1% of all digital marketers in the world, Bryan Dulaney. He's teamed up with super big names like Russel, Brunson, and Tony Robbins, and has helped many entrepreneurs with their funnel systems to help them become king of category. Now, I need help with my marketing. We all do. And with our content. So he took a look at my product stack and helped me understand that part of my business. He's a really talented guy, really smart, and I asked him if he would share some of his story and maybe a few secrets with you guys. But the conversation took an unexpected turn, and we started to explore the meaning of his near-death experience that was caused while hazing while attempting to join a fraternity in college. He talks about how it changed him into the man that God needs him to be. So you're going to learn both strategy and wisdom here today. And I know you're going to like this one. And hey, please don't forget to like these episodes and share them, and also subscribe. It seems small, but it helps the algorithms that help us grow, and it ensures that you don't miss out on any new and interesting conversations. It also helps us to see that you like what we're doing. So if you do like our show, please share that good news with us. Okay, here's Bryan Dulaney. Enjoy. So, we're talking about co-working spaces for people that are just kind of joining us. Regis is, they've kind of got a well-known brand for co-working spaces. Yeah. So have you done a lot of work with co-working spaces, or have you always used that, or just when
I've just always used that because they're pretty much anywhere in the world, and you can drop in and
just have a
don't have to have like a physical space, which is, just unneeded overhead.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, I don't need all the overhead for what,
Yeah. When do you typically meet people? Like just when they book appointments with you, or like?
Yeah, it's primarily for working on like sitting down and doing like strategy sessions where we're mapping out things, or working with them on like scripting webinars or challenges or creating offers, right? All of that stuff. That's when we meet.
And I know some people that are, marketing coaches that just build a studio in their home, right? Mm-hmm. I know you said you've got some studio presence in your home, but you just find it more convenient here because it's closer to airports.
Closer to downtown, closer to
food options,
the beach. It's, it's in the heart of the city, right? Yeah. So it's just, the hotel access is easier. I'm in the country, we're out in the country. We could obviously do it at the house in the studio, but then it's not the same. It's not as easy to walk out to, go grab lunch. Right. Take a walk, get out in the sun,
right?
Get a little pattern interrupted and come back.
Yeah.
I find that's it, rather than just being all locked up in the studio all day.
Yeah.
And just like heads down grinding. Yeah. It's like, it's good to get out and about.
Like we were heads down grinding all day. So is that easy for you to do? You seem to be like a very detailed brain guy. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like you love to get in the weeds. And I'm sure that the strategy session that you gave me today, it seems, how often do you do those?
I've done about 500 of those.
500 of those
at this point.
How many per week do you do now? Like
2 max.
2 max?
2 max a week, but usually it's about 1 a week.
Okay.
4 a month. I don't really like to do many more than 4 a month.
So people that are unfamiliar with what we're talking about basically somebody going into this studio with you, a work studio that wants to take their business, their expert brand, and they want to maximize that. They want to be able to find out exactly, what it is. Well, first of all, can they make money selling their information?
Right. Well, typically people come to us because they want to figure out, how do I launch my business online, or how do I bring my expertise online in a way that I can make 7 to 8 figures a year in business and serve people doing it, right? That's typically why people come to us. Now they might come to us because they're like, hey, Bryan, I want you to build out a webinar funnel, or they're like, hey, I want to build out a challenge, or I want to launch my book, or I want to launch my coaching program or my mastermind, or whatever it might be, right? They all come in from different perspectives.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the reason why we're sitting down for a day is really getting clarity around what's the plan, right? Like what's the blueprint here? What's the specific plan to that person on what are their funnels, what are their offers, and what's their ad strategy to be able to have a 7 to 8 figure business?
Is there certain industry types that contact you more than others?
I would say more. You've got 3 different categories. You've got the wealth category, which is the business category. You've got the relationship category, and you've got the health category. And I would say, we serve all 3 of those categories, but I would say mostly business. So people who have a business opportunity offer. Gotcha. I serve more of those type of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a type? What's the rarest or the oddest type of opportunity that you've had? Like
oddest, rarest. I mean, there was a lady that came through that taught people how to literally set up stands. Stands like, selling like watermelons.
Oh, yeah.
And fruit stands.
Yeah.
Right. And like how to have a business selling fruit stands. She had set up like 100 of these stands, making $200,000 a month across multiple states, had a bunch of kids working them. And her son paid for college by running a fruit stand.
Really?
Yeah. Makes like $3,000 to $5,000 a week.
Legit,
believe it or not.
Lemonade stands.
Yeah.
Still work.
Glorified lemonade stands. I was like, awesome. You got to be kidding me. Yeah.
And so did you figure it out? Did you figure out how to?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
And
she was pretty successful. I mean, she's not like a $10 million case study or anything, but it's still a viable opportunity.
Yeah, you made it super successful for her. So she's making money helping people set up fruit stands.
Yep.
In their local town or
local town. It's like a local business, all geared towards a local business and helping people set up fruit stands that make $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which you would never think that would actually be a thing.
I know. It seems like
those people are actually that have fruit stands are like silently slaying it, but they wouldn't want you to know
really
that they're slaying it. For a lot of Americans, that's
life-changing
income.
It is, and the ability to work for themselves too.
Right.
What's interesting about that is that there seems to be so many, riches and niches, but it's like how specific can you get and still scale, And scaling is a very interesting concept because, and it took me a while to learn this, but like I'm a very growth-oriented guy. My skill set is in growth. If I see something, I want to grow it, regardless of what it is. I just want to take it and magnify it, make it bigger, and do more of it. But growth skill set is different than scaling skill set because it seems to be that growth is more like personality driven, it's more production driven, and more standard driven. But scaling is more driven by architecture. And how do you take what you did in one location on her fruit stand and make sure that works in other locations that you're not present in?
Yep.
And it seems like your skill set is more in the scaling rather than growth because you've got a very architectural mindset.
Right.
And you even used the word architect in our session multiple times, which is a key term in scaling. Yeah. So what kind of advice bubbles up when we talk about scaling or when you've helped people scale?
Yeah.
Like what are some things
to me, scale is you're taking something that's working and you're scaling it, right? Like you're creating more volume, right? Like you're bringing more people through the process, right? So I would say the first thing is like the superpower that I've built over the years is like launching campaigns, right? And then beyond that, then when we get into scale, it's really about, can you go from a $5,000 budget to a $50,000 budget? Now, typically, you're not going to do that in a week, right?
When you say budget, you mean marketing budget?
Advertising budget,
okay.
Right? So you go from 5 to 50, like you're not going to typically go from 5 to 50 right away. You're going to go 5, then 15, or 10, then 20, then you'll get up to 50 once the numbers shake out. But really, scaling to me is adding more gas on the fire on the front end to bring more people through the back end, and then that's how you bring more volume into the business.
Okay.
Right. So but the key component for me is you need to be optimized before you scale, and you kind of got to optimize as you scale. So there's not like this concept of like you're never going to stop improving. Right. You have to embrace Kaizen, which is constant improvement when you scale. Certainly, especially when you scale.
Okay.
In my opinion.
So people that are thinking to themselves, okay, right, I can take the thing that I've done that I'm an expert at and make money at it. It seems like that formula is very specific.
Yeah, I would say another thing I want to say about scale is like, let's say you've worked with like 20 people privately.
Yeah.
Scale is being able to work with 20,000 people, right?
Not
That's
privately.
Scale, not privately, but digitally.
Yeah,
right.
And
That's
it takes architecture to do that,
right?
Because you got to break down what are those like key performance indicators. What are those things that actually got somebody from point A to point B? What's the thing that launched them, and then what's the thing that really gave them that powerful surge into success?
Yeah. And it's a different mechanism, right? So you go from working one-on-one to working one-to-many, right?
Right. That's a different leadership style too.
It's different. Correct. Right.
So, have you noticed people that have done this well and those that have not done it well, and like what archetypes work better than others, or what skill sets work better than others?
I have noticed, people that work a lot of one-on-one or have done a lot of one-on-one selling.
Yeah.
It's different when you're selling one-to-many.
Okay.
That's a very different animal. So it's like your energy is different.
Okay.
Like
more performance energy, you mean?
More performance energy, yeah. When you're selling one-to-many, you're in a much more of almost like a stage. Like imagine getting on a stage and communicating to an audience.
Yep.
Whereas when you're one-on-one, you're not going to be that fired up. Like you're not going to be like that intense.
It's more intimate.
It's more intimate. Personal. It's more personal. It's a little bit more neutral. It's a little bit more of a conversation like this.
Low key.
Yeah. Whereas, and that works really effectively in one-on-one, but that doesn't work at all in one-to-many.
And why doesn't it?
You got to create motion. You got to create, you got to create movement. It's got to be exciting. It's the example of getting on a stage. And if you like showed up that way and on a stage in front of an audience, they would fall asleep.
Right.
But when you're one-on-one, you can talk one-on-one. There's not that other person that you're talking to can't really disengage very easily. But in a group, the person can kind of slip away and fall back into their seat and fall asleep very easily because they're checked out. And they can easily check out. Whereas one-on-one, you can't check out. Like you're either in the conversation or you're not.
Well, and the thing is, if you're actually in a theater watching somebody on a stage, it's impolite to get up and walk out. But if you're on your phone, we're talking about a digital stage here.
Experience, right.
And it's very easy for somebody to check out.
Correct.
And move on to the next stage.
So you've got to you got to keep the energy flowing. You've got to take people what I call on a roller coaster, not a flat line.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't let them flatline.
Gotcha.
Got to take them on a ride, and that has to that brings in emotions, right? Emotions of excitement, emotions of sadness. So you've got to you take them on a journey through sharing stories and through sharing, sharing.
Where I'm from, we call it spinning a yarn, right? You actually tell the story of somebody else's success or your success, and create that eager want in somebody. Take them on a little adventure, that hopefully ends in a reward for them. How long have you been at this?
17 years, over 17 years. So
17 years.
I started in 2006. I got into it as an affiliate because I was in college working on my master's degree. Yeah. Part-time personal trainer, making, $15 an hour just on the side.
Personal trainer.
Fun.
Just helping people get buff.
Just helping people lose weight. Get shredded.
Whatever.
Get build muscle.
Yeah. What attracted you to that industry?
I just enjoyed it myself. Yeah. I enjoyed training. I went to school in college a little bit and went for one semester on anatomy and physiology. Okay. And basically I realized there's no real career there that makes any money. I remember that interested in it.
Are you one of these people? I can't remember if you said in your breakout session when I met you. Are you one? Did you finish college or were you like?
I finished school, but I dropped out of my master's degree when I realized I had made more than my teachers in 3 days, and they made all month.
That's what it was. That's what I remember you saying.
So I bailed on that because I figured out how to print money. I'll print cash on demand through the internet.
Yeah.
And that was being an affiliate. It was just selling other people's stuff. I didn't have anything to sell. So I had to find stuff to sell that people wanted. And then I had to drive traffic to it.
How did you find that stuff?
So I learned a lot at that time. This was 2006, about how to drive free traffic. Again, I was in a place where I was borrowing money on student loans, making $15 an hour part-time. I wasn't in a place where, certainly wasn't a trust fund baby. So that didn't happen. Yeah. That wasn't my situation.
Okay.
But I was in a place where, I was hungry for knowledge and hungry for information. And a year before that, I had stumbled on personal development and realized, like, man, where's this been all my life? Like, this is an amazing. Why weren't they teaching me this in school? You know?
Right. Yeah.
And on that journey of falling in love with personal development and just consuming myself with it, I kind of modeled Tony. Tony said, the first couple years of his journey, he just was like read every book and CD and that everything he could get his hands on. And so I was like, success leaves clues. I should probably do that as well. Yeah. So for 2 years, that's what I did. And then I stumbled into internet marketing. I saw these guys who were talking about how they're making money while they sleep and how, they're making these great incomes and impacting people's lives. And they're doing it all from their computer. I joined a 30-day challenge. Believe it or not, it was a 30-day challenge. It cost me $1 to join. And I bought my domain name, and in 7 days, I had a sale came through. It was $750. I had an email. It's like, you made a sale.
What was it? What did you sell?
I sold it was software plus education. It was a $2,000 product. And I made a $750 sale.
As an affiliate?
As an affiliate, driving traffic.
Driving traffic to somebody else's, product.
Yep, that was it. I didn't even spend a dime on advertising. I ranked in the search engines for the product name keyword because I figured out how to do SEO at the time, which is search engine optimization, right? Ranking in Google.
And did you just read how to do that?
I watched videos on how to do it. That was the 30-day challenge. 30-day challenge was how to drive traffic through sales and primarily using search engine optimization.
Okay.
So I watched the video, implemented it, watched the video and implemented it, watched the video and implemented it, right? And then 7 days, boom, you made a sale, right? And it was for $750. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is awesome. If I can just figure out how to do this once a day, I'll make $250,000 a year from the comfort of anywhere in the world.
So you figured out how to do it.
So then I was like, I was all pumped. I was telling my roommates that I had roommates at the time, and we had an apartment in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I had 2 roommates, and they're like, yeah, I'll believe it when it shows up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me know when it actually hits your bank account. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
Right. So that took me about 30 days to have it actually show up. But in the meantime, I was like, you know what? I need to figure out how to do this. Like, I need to figure out why this happened because I had no clue. I had no idea why it happened. I really ultimately believe that, God kind of led, like God kind of allowed that to happen or had that happen on my behalf to get me in the industry. So from there, I started studying everything I could about how to reproduce that every day. I just wanted to get that once a day. Online. So I bought courses. So I bought courses, would spend, $1,000 here, $2,000 here. I'd go to even events. I was like, I got to figure this out. And then I realized one day, I was like, I didn't get my second degree black belt in Taekwondo by watching YouTube videos. Like, that's kind of silly, right? I went to the dojo 3 days a week, even when I didn't want to. And eventually I got my first degree black belt and eventually got my second degree black belt, but I had a sensei. So I was like, you know what? I need a mentor. Like, I was like, I need to find someone who has the results I want. And I need to pay them to coach me privately to tell me what to do, when to do it. Stop this journey of self-education. I need to just find someone who has the life I want and the results I want. And I found a dude from Australia who was making multiple 6 figures a month as an affiliate. And then he also had a service business. And so I basically talked him into coaching me because he didn't even have a coaching program at the time that was like this. But I had bought a product through him. And as a part of the bonus was a 1-hour consultation session for free. So that was the bonus for buying the thing through him. And he was an affiliate, right? So I bought that through him, got the session. He mentored me, coached me. And I was like, hey man, I need more of this. He's like, well, I don't sell anything. There's nothing. I don't have an offer like that. I'm like, well, what's it going to take to make an offer like that? Like, what do I need to give you to have more sessions with you like this? Yeah. Like, this is the ticket. Like, I want the life you've created. Yep. You had a bunch of kids, retired from a $500,000 a year corporate gig, and he had his own business, was able to do pretty much whatever he wanted. And I was like, I want that life.
Was he game for it?
And he was. I talked him into it. What'd
you come up with?
It was like, I was like $5,000 at the time, which was a lot of money for me at the time.
Oh,
it was
no doubt.
That was a lot, that was a stretch, it was a nerve-wracking decision, but I was like, this is my key to freedom here. And so I talked him into it. He took me through, he started coaching me, and then I launched a campaign, spent $500 on advertising, made $20,000 in sales, $10,000 in commissions in about 3 days.
What were you selling on that?
I was selling a $2,000 product, paid me $1,000 as an affiliate.
How'd you find that product?
There was a network of sites that would list offers that were launching.
Okay.
And it was like a directory of offers that people were upcoming product launches.
Okay.
And so I just found an upcoming product launch. I got in line with it. I was like, okay, I need to create. He taught me to find products that had over a $500 commission per product.
Okay.
So that had 1,000. So that was like, check. And then he said, you want to create a bonus package for people that buy through you and like give them a reason to buy through you and not go through someone else.
Okay.
By buying through you, they're going to get all this other extra stuff for free. So you give them a reason to buy through you rather than just going directly through the product owner themselves.
Which is interesting because you didn't own anything to really bonus people on.
I didn't.
So how did you come up with the bonus?
I don't even remember what I came up with.
Really?
It's been 17 years.
What do you think it was? Like,
oh man, I think I probably
was it somebody
gave
else's
them,
product?
I probably gave them some time.
Okay.
I probably gave them some consulting time.
Okay.
At the time, I think that's probably something I would have given them.
Okay.
I remember the funnel. I remember building the funnel.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used a platform called Excite Pro. It was like a WordPress or like a website builder. You know, that's all they had to build. That was the best thing at the time. It was like it was like a little bit better than building HTML pages and WordPress sites.
And so how long did this take place where you're just selling other people's products?
For a couple of years.
Really?
But within that time frame, within like a year, I found a product I wanted to promote that was a water ionizer. And I contacted the company and said, hey, can I sell your stuff? I was like, I'd love to send you buyers. They're like, well, you can buy them for $1,000 and sell them for $2,000. I was like, no. I'm going to send you buyers. You're going to send me a check for $1,000. And the owner responds now at this point. It's like, that sounds awesome, but like, we don't have the systems for that. Can you help us dominate our competition? Like, can you help us completely like market this thing and position ourselves as like the dominant, like best product in the market? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I tapped back on my mentor and I was like, hey, can you help me land this client? Because I've never had a client before in my life. So it was funny. I was trying to be an affiliate for this company, wasn't even looking for a client. And it converted into a client. And that ended up being an $8,000 a month client. First client, never had a client before. That was my first deal at that point, I was still kind of like in the college realm. I was still in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Wow. What was it about that ionizer that you thought was going to be the ticket for you?
I love that product. So there was a doctor in town in Lynchburg who was bottling the water, and I would go and buy the bottled water, and I would go and I would get it. And it was alkalized water, not alkaline water, but it was alkalized. And there's a difference that a lot of people don't know about. Okay. But alkalized is usually done through a machine. And within 24 hours of drinking it, like if it's not out of the machine and drank, like it loses its alkalinity.
Okay.
So a lot of that like alkaline water stuff is kind of BS.
Okay.
But it made me feel so good and energized. And then the doctor actually had blood work before and afters of how it was improving people's blood. And I mean, I just felt great, you know, and they were showing case studies of horses drinking more of this water. It basically breaks down the structure of water. So it's easier to digest and it's more sticky, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I loved it. And that's what compelled me to promote it in the first place. And it was a $2,000 product. So I was like, I can make $1,000 a sale.
And it would alkalize your own water, right?
It would alkalize you just drink the water. It would alkalize your system.
Oh, okay.
Your body.
But I mean the ionizer.
The ionizer would alkalize the water.
Okay.
To be at a certain pH.
Uh-huh.
And then your body was able to break it down because it was basically broken down.
Okay, so you were passionate about the product personally. So that makes a difference.
I was.
Because here you are, you're like, you've got personal results with it. Right. And so were you using some of your personal results and passion in your in my
marketing? Yeah. No. Well, I never got around to marketing it from that perspective because his objective was we want to dominate our competition. And so we ended up building out review sites and we ended up doing a lot of different things to basically position that brand in the search engines. So his objective was to dominate Google, dominate YouTube, dominate Yahoo, dominate Bing, like basically be the number one place that people point to.
Gotcha.
And our job was to build out all the review sites and all the websites and then run the advertising. And there was a consumer review brand created. And to this day, he's like one of the top guys in the industry. He did over 20 million in sales.
But what's interesting is that it's like you became this outsourced, this contract marketing service for him.
Right.
And certainly his business won. Certainly you won. Yeah. And but you were introducing this new concept to people. Yeah. So that's very pioneering. That's pretty amazing. So what was the next thing? The next stepping stone for you?
So From there, I was doing a lot of affiliate marketing, and I was, doing 2,000 a day, 3,000 a day in profit, just promoting other people's stuff. And it was on autopilot. So it was like 15 minutes a day. I check my stats in the morning, check my stats. It was a lot of very automated business.
Yeah.
So I was promoting a lot of weight loss offers, resveratrol, acai berry, free trials.
Right.
And they were paying out like $45 to $55 a free trial.
Wow.
So every person that would take a $4 or $5 free trial, I'd get paid $45 or $50 or $55.
Wow.
And I just ran traffic through Google ads, through Yahoo ads. Believe it or not, Yahoo ads did very well.
Wow.
I was making $2,000 a day selling resveratrol on one keyword on Yahoo only.
Wow.
And we were tracking every keyword. So we knew like we fit on that one. It was only the product name that was actually profitable on Yahoo. Okay. And there might've been like 2 other words that were like semi-profitable, but everything else was like a dud. Like you would spend $1, make less than $1. Whereas like the product name itself was like, you spend $1, you make $2. So it was like, I'm putting in $1, I'm getting $2 out. And it was just dollar in, dollar out, dollar in, dollar out. And it was automated, and it was a basic review site. I owned at the time Resveratrol Ultra Reviews. The name of the product was Resveratrol Ultra. The funny thing is I reviewed like 5 different products on the page, and people would buy all of them, which was weird because you'd think people would just buy the first one because it's like this is the best one, and they would, believe it or not, I'd get commissions from every single company, but the majority came from the top one, obviously.
Yeah.
I wasn't profitable on Google, so I didn't run any of the Resveratrol Ultra ads on Google. It was all through Yahoo ads at the time, which is now owned by Bing. But it was great. And then I started going to events. I ended up making an iPhone app. We started iPhone apps in 2008, and we built a platform called Gas Hound, which would find the cheapest gas in any location based on your geographic. And so we built an app for that. So you could be anywhere in the world, any city, any town, and you pull the app up. So we partnered with a guy in our Greek class, and he was like an A+, plus, plus student, really good at Greek.
Yeah.
And he was a web programmer, and we had him learn how to program apps on iPhone because the iPhone app developer kit came out, and we partnered with him to learn how to do it. He studied a book like this thick in 2 weeks and started developing the first app, which is the Gas Hound app. And we had it live in 2008. We had it live on the Apple Store, not that long after Apple basically allowed developers. Right?
Gotcha.
That was back in 2008. Then we continued to develop more apps. And then eventually I was like, hey, I want to build a personal trainer for your iPhone. And I want the iPhone to do everything but lift the bar and yell at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, I'm tired of writing on paper. I'm tired of writing 3 sets at 65 pounds, right? Like, I'm tired of doing that. Like, I need it. It should be on my phone.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a personal trainer. The idea was you go into the gym, you go into the app and you tell the app, I want to lose weight. I want to build muscle. I want to burn fat. Like whatever you had, like there's 3 selectors, and then it would randomly and dynamically give you a workout every time you went into the gym.
Wow.
So it's dynamic. So it's not the same constant, because that's a thing within like training.
Yeah, you got to confuse your body.
Confuse your body,
Yeah.
and not be so much, not be so repetitive.
Right.
And so I ended up needing to raise 10 grand. And at the time, this was before the affiliate business actually took off, or around the same time. I don't remember, but I know I needed to raise 10 grand because the guy needed 10 grand to develop the website and develop the app. What was fascinating about the whole thing, it was like he was like, I need 10 grand. I'm like, okay, I'll go get 10 grand. And within a week, like I had 10 grand, like just show up in my life.
That's awesome.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Like God sent me a guy. So my brother, I was literally the week I realized I needed the 10,000 to develop the app and develop the website and launch it. My brother had a friend come over and I was telling the vision about the app. And he's like, I'd love to invest in that. And then boom, off and away we went, and we developed the app, we launched the app, started selling the app in the App Store, right?
Cool. Did you do good with it?
It was okay. I didn't at that time have an iPhone app market. There wasn't a lot of info on how do you market and sell iPhone apps. Like we were pioneers in this space.
Okay.
You know what I mean? 2008, the developer kit just came out.
Right.
Nobody was developing apps. There was no courses on apps. Like there was nothing. Like there was a manual about how to develop an apps, and it was written by like a programmer. So like there was no marketing on apps.
It wasn't even easy to read, probably.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, he was super techie, you know what I mean? Like he could get it, right? But then after that, I or kind of why that was going on, I ended up moving to Aspen, Colorado, partnered with a guy. He wanted to do affiliate marketing, and I was really good at affiliate marketing. And he's like, well, I got the money. How about I fund it and you just do the work? I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I basically partnered with him, this guy named Frank, in Aspen, Colorado. And I was living in Aspen, Colorado, which was an awesome place in the summer and the mountain in the winter. Just did affiliate marketing. And his goal was to just do $40,000 a month in affiliate commissions, because he had already built a big real estate business. He was a real estate developer, built hotels, condos, owned gold mines, just random.
Oh my gosh.
Dude's been around forever. He was in Aspen in the 70s. So he capitalized on that growth.
The growth of that, yeah.
Yeah. He built Simon Properties, the guy who owns Simon Malls. He built him a $25 million house that he sold to him. Just epic stuff.
Wow.
And he's like, I just want to do affiliate marketing. I want to relax. I want to hang out with my kids and my wife. And I just don't want the stress of managing all these employees. And
right.
I was like, cool. Well, I'll do the work. You spend the budget. We'll split 50-50 and off and away we'll go. And so I was in Aspen and I was working on launching my own product. And at the time it was called Traffic Tsunamis. Okay. Now, mind you, this was about 2008. Okay. And my idea at the time was take all these traffic sources like Google and YouTube and Facebook ads, and take all these different ways in which to get traffic. And at the time, everyone was selling a $2,000 course on each one. So I was like, why don't we just take all these things, wrap it into one product for $2,000 and have it be really, really actionable? If you want to advertise on YouTube, here's exactly what you need to do, and cut the BS. Just strip it of the BS and just be here's the practical guide.
Right.
If you want to get traffic from YouTube, this is what you need to do. If you want traffic from Facebook, this is what you need to do. If you want your traffic from SEO, this is what you need to do, right? If you want to get affiliate traffic, this is what you need to do. So I had 10 different traffic sources. And instead of paying, my idea was you could go pay $20,000 by buying 10 traffic sources, right, from all these different experts, or you could just buy this one product to help you get a flood of traffic to your business.
Did it work?
So I spent 8 months fleshing it out. Okay. And my partners were a part of this high-level mastermind. And so they went off to this mastermind. I wasn't invited because it was husband and wife, and you couldn't bring a third party.
Okay.
So I never got to go. But while they were gone, this was full of a room of all these people that own traffic products.
Yeah.
And 2008, they actually gave them advice, and they said, I don't think we need another traffic product in the market, because they didn't want another competitive product in the market. There was one dude who's in real estate. He's like, I think you should probably let him try that. All of these people are your competitors. They're naturally going to say that.
Right.
And to think about it, 2008, TikTok didn't even exist. Instagram didn't even exist. Think about how many traffic platforms didn't even exist. And these guys were saying, oh yeah, there's too many traffic products in the market already, right? Which is totally hogwash. But they were influenced by that, and it basically kiboshed the whole project. I had the funnels built, email sequences, the whole thing. it was this serious master plan that I had. At that point, it was a pivot moment for me, where I really wanted, I was in my 20s, and I'm I really want to build a brand. I want to build my own database, my own brand. I want to be an affiliate forever. Affiliate business is great to get started.
Yeah.
It's not a long-term asset. You don't own anything.
Do people still do that? Do they
people
start?
Still do it. I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
But you don't have a brand. You're not going to sell an affiliate business.
Right.
You might sell an affiliate network, but you're not going to sell an affiliate business. There's no assets there.
Right.
Right. You don't own, you could build a list, but you don't really have, there's no proprietary, there's no products that you own. You don't have any control.
Yeah.
So, he was in his, he was in his early 60s. He was practically retired. So for him, it was cool. But I was I'm in my 20s. I'm not going to build a career here. I need to build a brand. Moved back to Pennsylvania, kind of to be with my family. My sister was giving birth to twins at the time. And I was like, I should be around for that.
Uncle Bryan. And
I then, kind of from there had to regroup and kind of figure out, okay, what's my next chapter of my life going to be? Because the affiliate thing was not where I wanted to spend the rest of my life focused on.
It's interesting, it seems, because you've got all this talent and success, right? And, far more money than people of your peers, right? There was probably anything you wanted to do, you could do. You'd mastered the art of being able, like you said, print money. Yeah. So it didn't really seem like money was a motivator to you. It almost seems like the challenge of like the next challenge was the next motivator for you. But and you found like a really cool opportunity with the traffic product, but you weren't in control. Somebody else said, no, you can't do this.
Yep.
And so was that like tough for you? Was that a driver for you? Was that like hands up in the air, like screw this?
No, yeah. I mean, I've always been someone where if you say no, I say, watch me. Mm-hmm. Right. I've always been against the grain, kind of. You tell me go left, I'm going right.
Yeah.
I've just always been wired that way.
Yeah.
But I've never let no get in my way. Even when my parents would say no, like you can't have this, I'd figure out a way, like how can I get them to say yes?
Yeah.
I mean, my dad would always say, I'd always want stuff as a kid, and my dad said, "What do you think money grows on trees?" Right? I'm like, yeah, it's made of paper, so it does.
It does, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And weren't you the guy that sold Jolly Ranchers in junior high?
Yeah, and I sold in like 5th grade. I sold Jolly Ranchers. I talked my mom into it. Was sometime around that period of time. Yeah, like 5th grade or somewhere around there. And so I talked my mom into going to the pharmacy and buying a box of Jolly Ranchers. I didn't have money, obviously, as a kid. So I was like, "Hey, Mom."
She was your private equity investor.
She was my private equity investor. I said, "Can you buy this box and I'll out of the profits, I'll pay you back." Right?
Yeah.
And so before you know it, I had, I was rolling into school with 12 boxes of Jolly Ranchers and selling out every day. And, not even bringing books anymore. I was just like, I'm just the candy man.
Yeah. and the principal or something said, "Hey, Bryan, you're not going to be able to do this anymore."
Yeah.
And he told you no.
The principal came back and he's like, "You can't do this anymore. This isn't a for-profit institution." I said, as being a smart aleck that I was like, well, I'm giving the kids what they want. They obviously don't want with what's in your vending machines, or else you'd be sold out as like I am.
Right.
So why can't I give them what they want?
What do you say?
And he just shut it down. Just said, you just can't do that here because, we want them to buy our stuff, basically.
Okay, so the first time somebody shut you down, they shut you down because they were afraid of competition.
Right.
And I mean, that was actually the second time, in the chronology. The first time was this principal.
Yeah.
He shut you down because of some idealistic reason.
Right.
Right. So there are these people telling you no.
Right.
Regularly in your life. People tell you no when you've succeeded or when you're onto something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there an instance when somebody said no and you hadn't proved the concept yet, and then you went and did it anyway?
Yeah. I mean, there's been several times in my life where I've gotten a no. I would say yes to the answer.
Did your wife tell you no before you met her, or was she an easy sale for you?
She didn't say no. She did not say no at that point. I think at that point I was pretty clear about what I was looking for in a relationship.
Really?
In terms, yeah. I mean, I was in my 30s at this point.
Yeah.
And so I had gone through all the dating stages of life.
Done with that.
I was done with that, and the way in which we met was rather unique, and we dated for 2 years, and then eventually we got married. Never really had a no with her. That wasn't the case with her.
That's how.
But I had definitely have had situations in my life where, I was onto something and I got a no and figured out a way to prove them wrong in a way.
With me and my wife, it was a different situation. It was all no in the beginning, and then I had to eventually do the takeaway. It was really more of a give up on my end. It's like I have literally done everything I can do to get this girl to fall in love with me, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So I'd moved on, and then she was like, "Wait a minute, I do like that guy."
Yeah.
And that's how we built our relationship. Nice. At what point did you realize that you wanted to start helping other people?
Back at Liberty University, which is where I graduated, got my marketing degree, went on to get my master's, and I fired my teachers because I was making more than them in a couple of days than they were making all month. When I was there, I was really pressing into what was my purpose? Like why did God spare my life? Because I died in 2003, came back to life, was in a coma. It's a whole other story.
Wait, you gotta tell some.
A whole other story.
You gotta. you have to start. You have to just stop and tell a little bit of that.
Yeah.
story.
So I was at Slippery Rock University, right, and it was my second year. Okay, this is right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I wanted to get involved and do something because school wasn't challenging enough.
Okay.
So I was like, I went fraternity or student government. I was like, fraternity sounds more fun. I had a couple friends actually that were in one of the more prestigious fraternities. Like they were the most academic, they're the most athletic. They weren't like the hardcore partiers, right? But so they were like kind of like, I guess, a little bit more in the middle. It's funny with the fraternity life, at least in college, you have like the guys who are all roided up. That's like the fraternity. You had a fraternity like that. You had a fraternity of like, these guys are crazy party animals. This group partied, but they were more athletic, more academic, like pretty well respected on campus. So I was going through Hell Week, which is an infamous fraternity thing.
Yeah.
And it was dramatic, as you can imagine. I mean, it was an emotional roller coaster where they basically beat you down, basically like the military. It's a very militant kind of
talking down to you,
very negative, very activating as much negative emotion as humanly possible.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I'm not beating you with anything or anything but like just emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, and it was dark and it was, it was pitch black and, it was just a very interesting emotional.
Were you like naked standing in a bucket of cold ice water or something?
I wasn't. No. And they didn't do anything with any,
Okay.
but there was grown men crying.
Okay.
By the time they got done this situation.
Wow.
So that's just all. I mean, out of the like 7 of us, there was at least 3 of them that were like sobbing, tearing, crying.
And people left and
out
quit.
loud.
Did people?
No, none of them left. None of this group. None of our guys bounced.
Okay.
They stuck through it. They were pretty tough. But it went from that to celebration and typical of Big Brother night in every fraternity is, at least the ones that I know of, is like you do a celebration with your big brother, and your big brother then, you drink the alcohol of choice of that big brother that's got passed down from the big brother before, and it's like this tradition, right?
Okay.
And so, I found myself at an apartment of one of the brothers, and we started there before we went off to one of the fraternity houses. And I started with, Dulaney, drink these 5 shots. And before you know it, I blacked out and found myself waking up in the hospital the next morning with a doctor rushing to my bedside as if he's alive.
After five shots.
Well, I drank what was the conclusion was I had a 5th of vodka in less than 30 minutes. And so
It started with the 5 shots.
I started with the 5 shots, and apparently it
You didn't know
escalated.
what happened after that.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. So it was 5 back to back, like boom, 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 boom. And then it was something happened after that I don't remember.
Okay.
And I woke up in the hospital, catheter in me, not pleasant, a little uncomfortable.
I've been there.
Yep. And the doctor said, your blood alcohol level coming in here was 0.39 and 0.40 is dead. He's like, I called your parents the night before, said your son's going to be either dead or brain dead for life. Like, I've never seen anyone with this severe of a condition live, let alone even be able to comprehend what I'm saying. He's like, there's no other explanation, but, you're a living miracle. God must have a plan and purpose for your life. And so, that was like really a big turning point in my life. It was like, okay, I need to surround myself with different people. Obviously, these people aren't a good influence in my life. And number 2, I need to, I need to seek out, like, why was my life spared? And so that I went on this journey, and it was a 2-year journey of just deep, immersive kind of personal work, spiritual work, where I was searching for my purpose.
What kind of work did you do?
Well, I first of all transferred from a secular school to a Christian university down in Clearwater, Florida, called Clearwater Christian College. And I went to study pastoral studies because I was like, I didn't necessarily want to be a pastor, but I wanted to immerse myself in the scripture because I figured that was a good place to put my mind,
Yeah.
And then I transferred out of there because they were super fundamental, had tons of stupid rules. And I transferred to Liberty University.
Isn't that funny how those rules, like Jesus actually came to
break
speak
rules.
against the rules,
Right.
to turn theology up on its head.
Right.
And I so many people don't like Jesus because of the whole religious
rules.
thing, but he was
Right.
this rebel guy. Like the more you actually study and learn about Jesus, the more of a beautiful leader that emerges that I love to follow.
Yeah.
Did you discover that too in that?
For sure.
Was that
For sure.
So going to that Christian university and finding the legalism, did that make you closer to God?
Yeah. I mean, it allowed me to see the legalistic side of religion that wasn't, that was repulsive.
Yeah.
Right. And I realized that that's not the environment I really want to surround myself with. Like I don't want to be in a rules-based religious, community. And so there were great people there, but a lot of them were there because their parents went there and they were forced to go there. That was what I found.
Okay.
A lot of them were pastors' kids.
Gotcha.
The school doesn't even exist anymore. So obviously they didn't have a very successful model.
Right.
Transferred from there to Liberty University, and then during Spiritual Emphasis Week, which is when Liberty University brings in pastors and missionaries and leaders, business leaders, to really pour into the student body. That's when God revealed to me, what he wanted me to do and like what my purpose is of why I was spared, which at the time, all I got was share your story and help other people share theirs. That was the word I got. That was the prompting or the moment of divine clarity in that moment of just deep spiritual prayer, meditation, work, scripture, surrounding myself with other people in this conversation of spiritual things. And it was awesome. But I had no idea what that meant, And at first I thought I was going to go dorm to dorm and I was going to share my testimony of how I restored my relationship with my dad. First with my relationship with God, and then second, my relationship with dad, which I believe God gave me a formula, which I wrote in my first book, that was really about unlocking the ability to hear God speak. At least for me, in my experience, going through that process. Before going through that process, I wasn't able to really hear him. And then after going through the process, it's like it opened up. It's like the heavens opened up and I was able to begin to hear.
And when you say hear from
promptings.
God, for like the benefit of people listening
Yes.
that maybe don't have a spiritual relationship, is it a feeling in your spirit?
It's more of an inner prompting. It's more of like an inner voice, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not audible, right? It's not like we're speaking right
Brian,
now.
don't go that direction.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like an inner dialogue that is like a prompt or a gut check, or it's the only way I can explain how to relate it to anything.
I always ask because everybody's different,
Right.
and everybody hears from God in a different way.
It might be pictures. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
Like, God began to give me visions of, stadiums of people where I was releasing a message to them.
Okay.
So it was between the combination of like pictures and like promptings or words or phrases. So it was either one word or it was a phrase of words, or it would come as like a rush of ideas that I like couldn't contain and had to get out of me. That's what happened. And so I almost relate it to being like, before going through that process of like I call it forgiveness and love, forgiving those that hurt you in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to go through that. Before that, it was like being like stuck in a room in chains, like in the corner, like stuck and like in complete bondage. That's kind of the way that I relate, harboring bitterness and anger and frustration against another human.
So forgiveness unlocked
Forgiveness
from
is
God?
what unlocked it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I've been studying Job a lot recently, just because of the situation that I've been in life. God has talked to me about studying Nehemiah, because I've told you that God has recently, called me into doing more for people in business, being an apostle to them. Basically, he just said, will you go and tell them that I love them and not to give up? And so every chance I get, I try to do that. And then he sort of unlocked this message for me, and it's this. So when you're in anguish for God and you want to do something great for God and build something for the kingdom, anguish for something that's not being done, like Nehemiah. I mean, the enemies of Jerusalem the walls were destroyed, and when Nehemiah found out about it, he was in anguish and wanted to rebuild the wall. Well, how does a cupbearer of a king go rebuild a wall for one of the greatest cities in history? Well, it's outlined for you in the book, exactly how to build something great for God. And then he had me reading Job, because who are you without anything that you have? And do you still love and trust God if you have nothing? If it's just you
Right.
and God, what do you do? Do you curse God and die like Job's wife told him to do? Or do you hang in there,
Right.
Faithfully?
Right.
And then the next part of that is 1 Samuel, which is the king-making message. So those three books together are a really great trilogy on how to be a king after God's own heart. And so in Job recently, what I realized that I never got this on the first pass. Job is just this sort of storybook tale of a guy that lost everything. And I think that's how a lot of people approach it. But if you ever are in an emotional place of loss and you read Job, it is a tough read, man.
Yeah.
It's a tough read anyway, but it's a tough read. And what I realized at the very end of Job, when his friends were sitting with him for days and days and days and giving him the worst advice on the planet when he needed the best advice on the planet, and he received the worst advice on the planet, his friends were telling him, well, Job, you're this way because you're a sinner, obviously. In the end, when God spoke and corrected Job's thinking, Job's faith was tested, but he stayed close to God. He just was lamenting, constantly on why is it this way, until God finally comes in and says, where were you when the foundations of the earth were laid? What right do you have to question me on why I do things? In the end, God made Job's friends who gave him the bad advice, he made them come to Job, and Job had the choice to forgive them or not.
Right.
I mean, and keep in mind that these are friends that sat with Job for 7 days before any words were spoken. How bad off was this guy if you're going to sit in a room with somebody and take 7 days to be able to actually say something to him?
Right.
And so, and then you're going to continue to give him bad advice. God made those friends come to Job, and Job forgave them. And it was only then that everything was restored for Job. So it's this massive message of forgiveness. Yep. I don't think a lot of people catch that. I didn't either. So I just wanted to say that that's very fascinating to me, that forgiveness message is what unlocked
it all.
God speaking to you.
Definitely. So it was really like God showed me a process that I had to go through with forgiveness in my relationship with him, and then also with my dad. And then after that, the floodgate opened of downloads. I call them, or promptings.
I call them downloads sometimes. Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, okay, now I want you to go share this and get this message out to my people. Right?
Okay.
So the first thing I did was I thought, well, I should go dorm to dorm, and share my story, because it was only like male dorms, right? So I was like, well, I'll just go to a male dorm and then another male dorm, but they had curfew at Liberty, and so I thought this was a great idea. So I went to like the head of the school, like one of the major deans, like. I was like, hey, this is my vision. God gave me a vision. And essentially they shut it down because it was like policy. It's like, well, no, we need everybody to be in their dorms. And I was thinking to myself, man, you don't even know. Like I know guys that are sneaking out of the dorms, like they're bailing out, like they're just rolling out their window, and like they're over there sleeping with the girls on their girl dorms. Like, what do you mean I can't go and tell my testimony? Like,
you have the illusion of control here.
Yeah, you have the illusion of control, and I'm trying to do something good, and you won't allow me to do it.
What's worse is they want the illusion of control too, right?
Right.
I'll be darned.
Right. So that was another moment where someone said no, and then fast forward, I've now had my opportunity to share my story pretty publicly on the internet to get to far more people than I could have ever gotten to through a dorm.
That's beautiful. So, is God still speaking to you in your business now?
Yeah, of course. What I found is that it takes being mindful and like being receptive and willing to hear and like engaged in a conversation. It's seldom a brick across the 2x4, like a 2x4 across the forehead. Right?
Yeah,
It's normally not that. If it gets to that point, that means typically that I'm not listening, and I need to be, right? So
exactly.
So it's, to me, it's a constant and never-ending kind of conversation of do this, do that, do this, do that.
Yeah, what are we going to do today together here?
Right,
yeah.
Right. And it's different every day. Some days it's loud and it's clear, and other days it's quiet.
It's the same with your spouse, or your kids. There's routine things that just sort of happen, and one day fades into the next. And there's some days that you will never forget.
Right.
And so that's kind of
for me, I like to go places like, for me, I think when I hear God the most is when I am able to get away from technology. I'm able to get really present and be in nature. Mm-hmm. For me, that's like some of my most epic moments with him. It's like eliminating the distractions of our culture, which is so prevalent, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's so much noise, and it's easy to get busy, and it's easy to like not listen. So I try to find time where I disconnect from that to put myself in environments where I'm not bombarded with tech and not bombarded with noise, to be able to like actually hear. At least that's how I kind of roll.
Okay.
It's like being intentional about getting a word, right? But sometimes, I went to Hawaii. I remember back when I went to Hawaii a couple years back, and I got a word as soon as I landed, and it was a very clear, moment that I wanted to capture, and I captured it. I wrote it down in my journal. I'm really big on journals. And then I went the whole month in Hawaii after that point, and I hadn't got a word the entire time. And it was the last day before we were about to fly out. And I went out to the ocean by myself, and I just was like basically crying out, and I was basically praying, like, give me a word, like I want that word. And I was probably out there for a couple hours. And it wasn't until like kind of towards the end of that I like got dropped something into my spirit after that, of which I captured and wrote down immediately. But it was interesting, right? Like I went that whole time being there, and usually like the downloads are heavier there. I don't know why, but like when I get it out of the normal grind and out of like away from tech, that's when typically they come more freely.
You bet. Those hypnotic rhythms are not there, and you're more free to,
right.
Right.
Like I'm not in my phone. Yeah. You're able to breathe. You're able to like remove the clutter or the distraction, the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me like you're in a highly competitive business. We talked about this in our session. Like, I'm in a highly competitive business, and there's a lot of noise, and you've got to be really good at cutting through the white noise. So what are some breadcrumbs that you can leave people that just are listening to this podcast that say, hey, I just want to cut through some white noise in my life, or get more business, or be better at marketing without revealing any trade secrets? Mm-hmm. What are some things that somebody could take away from this podcast and say, hey, I'm going to implement this tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think like getting into an attitude of gratitude, it's something I talk about in a book that I'm going to eventually publish called Morning Rhythms. And it's kind of like morning rituals, but it's more of a rhythm. It's more of a dance. Mm-hmm. And it's getting into a space of gratitude, right? Like being thankful for what God has put in our life, what he's doing in our life, and getting into that attitude of gratitude and appreciation, right? I found that it's also a way to kind of break through and cut through the noise, is like we're in a place of gratitude and an attitude of appreciation and gratitude. Plus the day goes just so much better when we're in that
let me just
state.
say, I think that's the best thing that you can do. I mean, I talked to my son. My middle son is the kind of guy who he's always looking for the worst case scenario. My dad's a little bit the same way. He's always thinking about the what if this happens, or what if this happens? I mean, we need people in society that have that thought rhythm,
right?
Because those people build bridges. Right. We need those people to be able to figure out what's the worst that could possibly happen, because we need them to prepare for the worst. Right? If you're on a trip, going across country, you want somebody like that in your life.
Right.
The downside for those people is that they're always thinking about what's worse. So an attitude of gratitude is going to help them. And I have to be honest with you, like there's times in my life when I'm like tired of hearing that, because, and I'm sure other people are, because it's like, how is this attitude going to change anything? How is me stopping and like being thankful for anything? I just need to do the work. I just need to
right.
check these boxes, get on to the next thing. It's like stopping and being thankful for something. How is that part of my business plan? But I have found the older that I get, you really count your blessings. It gives you the fuel to go check the boxes and go do those things. Without the yang, the yin is so much more destructive to your mind and body.
Yeah, I think to me, it puts me in the right state of mind. It gives me a positive energy to move into the future, right? And it's like, how do you handle moments that are not great, right? Like shitty experiences, if you will, right? It's like, I've always been someone who has, when a moment that is tough, right? Like it can take you out, or you can move forward and grow from it, right? And look at the positives. You can like look at the positive, you look at the negative. I found that like looking at the negative, I mean, from the lesson, sure, but you need to eventually move on and get out of that low vibration, that negative energy, or else you're not going to create very well in the future. Right. And I found that just gratitude is one of those things that kind of resets
So do you honestly focus on this like daily or weekly?
For sure.
Just when a routine for you.
It's a daily.
Do you have something written out that you say every day too?
It's not written out. It's just not really written out at this point because I've done it for so long.
Okay.
I started this 17 years ago as well when I started my personal development journey. It just really, it's all the things that come to mind. Like, what am I thankful for? What do I appreciate? What am I grateful for? And you'll find that like when you start with the simple things like eyes to see and ears to hear and a home, right? A car,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
feet, right? You start to be thankful for the things that you have. You'll find that more things you have a lot more to be grateful for than you realize.
Because people in our lifetime didn't have indoor plumbing. People that you know who raised you at a time in their life didn't have indoor plumbing, or somebody in their age demographic.
Right.
I also hear a lot about, people like when it comes to racial tension between white people, black people. And, I hear, white people say, well, look, I didn't do anything. So why are people mad at me? Racism definitely works both ways. But I would say that to people, like, it's easy for us to forget that in our parents' lifetime, African American people had to drink from a different, water fountain, and go to a different restroom, and that's not too far away.
True.
I mean,
wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, and so I think we're living in a world now where grace is absolutely necessary, especially in topics of racial tension, but grace is necessary for ourselves as well. And I love that morning ritual because it puts you in a place. Gratitude, I think, will put you in a place where you're prepared to be graceful.
Well, and I also found that when you're grateful for little, you receive much, right? So like gratitude is contagious, what I have found. So, if you look at the things you're grateful for and you're continuously grateful for things, I have found that there's always more things to be grateful for that show up in my experience of life. I've found that like it's a snowball effect, that when I'm grateful and I verbalize it out loud, not just something I do in my head, but actually speak it out loud. There's power in speaking out loud, right?
There's life and death in the power of the tongue.
That's right. That's right. And so I have found that when I engage in that way, I find more things to be grateful for.
That's cool.
Yeah. Disconnecting as well, like disconnect from technology, get out in nature, get grounded. That's pretty easy. If you just stick your feet on the soil, I think that's a good way to reset the energy within your system of your body. That's another big thing for me. I like to go to the ocean and just get in salt water and get in the sun. That's why I love living in Florida, is I can get grounded pretty quickly.
I started doing some of that stuff. All of the things that you're talking about were first really introduced to me when I started going to Tony Robbins live events. And you actually have met Tony Robbins. You've actually, did marketing for him. He's said publicly that you're one of the top 1% of the marketers in the world, right?
Yep.
So I would go on his events, which were in these beautiful places, and I would just go lay in the ocean, and I would just kind of like really try to focus on gratitude. But like, I've heard you tell stories about like, when you were in Business Mastery and even like Platinum Partners, and then even the next level up, like when you're alone in a room with Tony Robbins, and he's like, what is it that you really want? Right. And asking you what you want. And I think a lot of people don't know what they want.
Yeah, he consistently asks that question, even in a high level private mastermind that you can't even pay to be in the room. He was continuing to ask that question. What do you really want? Even speaking with people who are in the room who are at a very high level.
So what changes? Why do you think he keeps asking that question? Because I think
you evolve. I think you evolve. I think we definitely evolve. I mean, as you become a father, as you become married, what you want changes. As you have children, what you want changes, at least for me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what I wanted as a single man was different than when I became married. And when I had kids, what I wanted is now changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Right? Like things shift
in
a good way. And I think, as you continue to grow, I think, the things that you want, I think it's about getting clarity about what it is you want, because I think a lot of people are not clear it's hard to hit a target when it's fuzzy, right? And so a lot of people just run around trying to hit fuzzy targets and they are missing because they're fuzzy. And so I think he consistently asks that question, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? To help people dig deeper into like, why are they doing what they do every day? And do they really want that outcome that they're producing in their life?
It seems like you really help people get what they want in life because you've got a long track record of really helping, taking somebody's expert brand and scaling it. I mean, I looked at some of the pictures on your website and some testimonials. You got some great testimonials. It's got to feel good to help people succeed at that level and to get them to that benchmark. I mean, that's life-changing money. It's life-changing influence. Right. And it's just a fun benchmark. It's like, I don't think people that go out for the Olympics, really want to do it for the money. I don't think they want to do it for the fame. I think they do it because they love the sport. Right. And so when you're working with people and somebody just can you tell when somebody like just wants to be famous or when somebody wants to make money?
I can.
Or does that affect you in any way and your either desire to help them or your plan for them?
I can. I mean, it's not always spoken, but it's like an undertone, right? Where you can tend to tell like if someone's just in it for the money. And typically someone who's just in it for the money it doesn't last long. You've got to really be in this business, especially in the expert business, the self-education industry, the knowledge business, to really care about people and the results that they want in their life. Like you really got to be contribution driven. Yeah. Like from a values perspective, like you really got to be driven by contribution. To be in this business for any length of time. Right. I've been in this for 17 years. I've seen people come and go. Yeah. Big guru type, celebrity type, expert type brands. Yeah. They've come and gone, right? Yeah. And they're, an expert in this one day and then they shift for the tide and are an expert in some other random thing that comes along the next day, like AI right? It's like every Tom, Dick, and Harry is an AI expert right now, right?
You're right, because somebody wants to sell the next hottest thing. It's the thing that nobody knows anything about. It's the thing that everybody needs information on. Mm-hmm, right. So there's this new informational product that they can sell that they have no competition. Right. So, and it's going to change. Like you, in the beginning of your career, when SEO was a thing that nobody knew anything about, you took some time and you learned about it. Right. You were able to help people. Well, first yourself.
First I did it, right? So first I did it. Before I ever taught it, before I ever started educating about it, I went out and just produced results for myself. Yeah. And eventually I produced results for others. And then eventually I got to a place where I was like, okay, people would probably want to learn this information and I can help more people. Yeah. And I can scale by creating products, books, programs that I can help get in more people's hands. Yep. Right. And that's that was the journey for me. Like I went from being an affiliate to then running a service-based business and then helping people produce results. And then there's only so much time for me. So the only next evolution is how can I help more people at a lower rate, right? Yeah. And get a piece of me. Right. Because I can't work with, there's only so many days in the year, right? There's only so many work days in the year. I can only work with so many people. So I've got to create leverage for myself, but also leverage for other people to be able to work with me, because as your demand goes up, your price goes up. And so you can only work with, a limited number of people. Right. I think you really got to be driven by contribution and think about, I always challenge people to think about their legacy. Like what is your impact in the world going to be in 100, 200 years from now? Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill. These people are still impacting people's lives. The 12 disciples, they're still impacting people's lives on a daily basis. They did certain things in a certain way, which inevitably produced certain results, and people are still learning from them, right? So I think I like to challenge people to think about, in 100 years from now, how are you going to still be impacting people's lives when you're no longer here, right? Now, obviously, you can pass that down to your children, and they can pass that down to their children. But most people are just not very strategic about it. They're not thinking about how can I pass on my knowledge, my skills, my expertise, my values, right? And I think we just got to be a little bit more conscious about that. I think I would rather think about it now, about how is my life going to impact someone else's life 100 years from now, than just hope and wish maybe one day someone's life will be impacted. Or on the flip side, be like, well, who cares? I'm gone. I think that's a really selfish way to look at life. like, well, who cares? I'm gone.
Yeah.
But the reality is your life is going to pass on regardless. It's just how long is it going to get passed on?
Yeah. There's no money in passing on your values, which is, I think, why a lot of people don't do it. I think good parents do.
Yes.
Discipleship is parenting, because the goal is to make yourself obsolete, right? Mm-hmm. Your goal is to become a fond memory, mm-hmm. a loving memory. But what you're talking about is much more than that. You're talking about not just becoming a fond memory, but becoming an ideology that continues on. Mm-hmm. I've heard some people say you should write your obituary, mm-hmm. and to me that seems like a waste of time, because I'm always focused on living and what I want to grow and what I want to do, and I don't want to think about what I'm going to leave, because I'm so enjoying living, even all the challenges and the struggles, and my ambition has always outpaced my ability, and so mm-hmm. my poor wife she's like, why can't you just like stop and enjoy like right now? And I really mm-hmm. have to stop myself, mm-hmm. because I'm always focused on growth and the next thing, and so I've been resistant to write my obituary, mm-hmm. but I think you've said it in a way that sparks a desire for me to do that. Like, what is the impact going to be in 100 years? I think all of us maybe should take some time to do that.
Right. You look at Napoleon Hill, right? I mean, he wrote that book, Think and Grow Rich, years ago, and people are still reading it every day.
Yeah.
Right. He's still impacting people's lives. I mean, that's one great way to capture, lessons. I think about my dad. I mean, he passed on, went to be with the Lord. He taught me, there's no such thing as can't. There's only I can and I will. Now, he was doing it from a joking, he wanted me to get work done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, you can't do that. Nope, can't do that. Mulch the yard. Nope, can't do it. Cut the grass. Nope, can't do it.
Yeah.
No such thing as can. There's only I can and I will.
Yeah.
But, it's funny because that's the mindset I take in business, right? Like, there is no such thing as can't. There's only I can, I will, right? There's no such thing as failure. Failure isn't final.
Yeah.
Just an opportunity to pivot.
Yep.
And I think, if you look at anyone who's super successful, they've pivoted out of every situation. The reason most people fail is because they take themselves out of the game.
Yeah.
And they stop. Right? They've made failure final.
Right.
They've stopped.
Right.
And then they've used excuses to blame outside circumstances for their situations when they played a role in that.
Right.
And so they need to own that, or they don't grow. Right?
Right.
So my encouragement is to, even if you've failed, that just means you've learned some lessons. Take the lessons learned, move on, and pick up your feet and keep moving forward.
Yeah, baby.
Because that's the only thing you can do.
Yep.
There's really nothing else you can do.
What's next for you in your business life?
All types of things. Some new books coming out. We're launching a certification, a protege certification, where we're going to certify people to do what we do.
Okay.
There'll be different levels of that.
So your dojo, this is your dojo.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
The Bryan Dulaney,
right.
belt.
Yep.
I love it.
We're doing a summit. I'm going to be interviewing about 100 experts who have launched 7, 8, and 9-figure expert brands.
Awesome.
I'm excited about that. I've got some really great interviews lined up, and we'll be launching basically a collective summit, virtual summit, with learning what are the lessons that they've learned on their journey to breaking through that 7-figure, 8-figure, and even 9-figure. We've got some 9-figure guys that I'll be interviewing and talking about, what was the secrets to their success on their journey. And then eventually I'll condense that down to probably 33 different chapters from the 33 best interviews out of the 100 or 120 interviews that I'm going to do.
That's cool.
So that's just another campaign that'll be fun to do. It's great I love doing these type of things. And learning about, what makes things tick for, there's no one way. There's ways, there's models, there's frameworks, but we all have our own unique fingerprint, and that fingerprint needs to be inserted in your unique brand.
Yeah.
Or else it's not successful. People that just copy other people there's no originality to it.
Yeah.
Right? You'll only go so far being a copycat. So this whole idea of modeling other people, you got to eventually grow out of that. It's like eventually you got to grow up and you got to be able to stand on your own feet and be able to be original and unique. I found that that's what it takes to really be playing this game at a high level.
Yeah.
Inserting your own uniqueness into the world. And then people are attracted to you like a magnet because you are willing to be different.
I love that. I do. I think in this world of AI, I think authenticity is going to really shine. I've heard a lot of people say that, and I totally agree with it. How do people get a hold of you if they want to begin to learn from you?
So they can go to bryandulaney.com. Bryan with a Y. You have to have a Y. So Bryan with a Y. Dulaney, D-U-L-A-N-E-Y. Dulaney, D-U-L-A-N-E-Y. They can check out all the stuff that we have going on. Get a copy of these books. We sell these books for free. We just say that, cover the cost of shipping to get it to you.
Okay.
So it's free, but we just ask you to cover the cost of shipping to get it to you.
I love it. Yeah. Man, it's good talking to you. It's good to get to know you. Yeah. Thank you for your time today, just for this and also the work session. I learned a ton. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. Yeah. And because I'm not afraid of hard work, and it'll be great to have rocket fuel to the people that I want to go serve. Awesome. So thank you. I'm excited to be in alignment with you on that. And also, one more time, you said no was to death. Right?
That's right.
You said no.
That's right. I
to
said
death.
No.
And
that's right.
And what do we say to the God of death? Not today.
Nice.
All right, man. Good being here. Talk to you again.
Great.
All right.
Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at WorleyRealEstateNetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.